My lodgings were located in the middle of Newtown, set among the many Eolet offices that managed the many imperial works in Yarrowdale. It was one of the more modest buildings, but pleasant enough. Yet as I approached, I noticed the porter boy standing outside, fretting in the lane. When he spied me, he scurried over, his face flushed. "Signum," he called. "Signum, sir. Are you Udex? Can you help me, please, sir?" "Perhaps," I said, perplexed. "What's this about?" "It's, the other Udex officer, sir." My heart sank. "Oh, what's she done?" "She's on the patio, you see. And the smell, sir. She's eating. But the smell of it's awful, and I don't know what to do." I sighed. "Please, lead the way." I followed the porter around the side of the building. The wind rose, and I caught the powerful, noxious aroma of rotting sea life. We rounded the edge, and I came to a stop. A flagstone patio was laid out on the hill, complete with some chairs and table. It must have been a merry sight once, but no longer, for it had been turned into a graveyard of oyster shells. Nearly half of the patio was obscured by piles of glistening carapace and crust and nacre, the pools of the oysters cloudy liquor baking in the waning afternoon sun. I could hardly begin to count them. There had to be from several hundreds of oysters at least. The heaps of shells rose gently to curl about the tea table in the center of the patio, almost like an embankment. And it was there, beside a soaking sack of unshocked shellfish, that my commanding officer Immunis Anno Dolabra sat hunched, plying another mollusk with a dull knife. "They're all starting to turn," whined the porter beside me. "We've already had complaints from the officers in the other quarters. The patio shall leak for days if we don't clear it up soon, but she won't stop or move elsewhere in the things she has said to me, sir." I watched as Anna pried open the shell, freed the flesh from within, tipped it into her mouth with a slurp, and tossed the shell over her shoulder. Though my stomach had mostly recovered, this sight, along with the aroma of such fetid sea life, set it rumbling again. Her pale head shot up. She sniffed, then slowly turned to face me, though she could not see me, for her eyes were bound up in a thick red blindfold, as usual. "Din," she said, "you're back." "I am, ma'am," I sighed. I dismissed the boy, then stepped about the heaps of shells, my boots crunching on the flagstones, until I came to stand behind her. "But, ma'am, the proprietors have asked me to—" She raised a finger. "First, tell me, then, how far a trek is it down to the sea?" I eyed the coastline. "A few leagues, maybe less, but why?" "I have a request," she said. "I would like to see if you could go down to the waters there, preferably to a spot far from seaweed, and fetch me a pail of seawater." She grinned so widely that the corners of her mouth nearly touched her ears. "I'm tasting the city, you see, the region, the seas." I scratched my eyebrow with a thumbnail and waited the rest of it. "Are you, ma'am?" "Oh, yes. The oysters absorb what's about them as they grow, you know. I can taste where they're from." She used the dull knife with all the deftness of a midnight murderer, and popped open yet another shell with a wet click, the liquor running down her fingers. "All it needs is a little salt. If you were to take a pail of seawater and slowly boil it, we would be left with the purest sea salt. And what a thing it would be to taste the flesh of the sea itself, seasoned with its own salt. It's too poetic for us not to. Yes?" "I did not think your appetite for oysters was so tremendous, ma'am." "Oh, I'm not actually hungry, then. Really, it's that each oyster is different. You can taste in each one which reef they came from, which side they grew upon, which waters they flourished within. They are like melodies of the ocean rendered in flesh." She turned her right ear to the coast. "Just listen to it. I've never been so close to the sea. All about me the world is bright with patterns. I can hear the heartbeat of the ocean in the wax and wane of the waves. I can feel the wind unspooling from its wild tangles out over the waters. And now I taste those waters, and all that dwelt in them. She grinned savagely as she pried the lump of gray flesh from the bottom of the shell. I wonder, is this the closest I'll ever come to tasting a leviathan's flesh? Did these oysters absorb a hint of their essence? She sucked it back. For I've heard whispers that some parts of the titans are edible, if properly bled.